Hello everyone, Anthrage Stormrider here of the Bloody Point and the Conqueror's Blade specific vlog, The Bloody Blade. Well, early access is in full sway. Chaos reigns everywhere. The fights have been pretty intense. We even saw some territory wars, the open world sieging, people grabbing up some fiefs. Everything's running pretty smoothly. There have been a few cases of heavy matches where you'll get lag and sync issues in the beginning for the first couple of minutes of a siege. But generally speaking, I've been very impressed with how things are running. The population, of course, is not as large as it will be once we hit the 4th of June when free-to-play goes live. So we may see some additional problems then. But, all in all, I'm pretty impressed, and I think that we've got a solid base here going forward. Just today I want to talk about some of the issues with the game as it stands now, and just express my thoughts on the experience. I'll start with that. I have to say I've played a lot of games of this type, both MMOs and non-MMOs, and Conqueror's Blade really does a lot of things very, very well. The core gameplay, the actual battles themselves, whether they be sieges like this one or field battles, they're extremely fun. They are very dynamic. You never really know what's going to happen. We've seen a lot of these battles come down to the final seconds, which is amazing. Really intense, and when you've got 5 or 6 seconds left, and that's what decides the battle. You have room for individual effort. It's always great in a game where one player can affect the way a battle turns out without being overpowered, just through their gameplay and their skill play. And then, of course, you have the added issue or element of the units, and that's also very fun. There's a lot of rock, paper, scissors going on when it comes to the weapons, the warlord classes, or with the unit use. This particular fight here, we pushed hard to gain control of the walls, and in these sieges specifically, the maps are different, of course. There's several maps, and they play a little different depending on what map you're on. This is a good shot here by Kebab, making a kebab of me. Good job. Or Kaibob. Yeah, so the different maps play out differently. It really depends on what map you're on, but generally speaking, the flow is similar. You take control of the walls, you capture the points, supply points, and you push deeper to the final cap. In this case, we had really no real issues. We did have a lack of trebs. That's, talking about issues earlier. There have been some issues, and one of them is that for some matches, the treb is not available if you're the attacking force in a siege. I'm not entirely sure why that is. I know it happens in in matches that are plagued by lag. This didn't seem to be the case here, but we did not have trebs. But I'm sure that's something that will get worked out. So again, the games are fun, and there are many different types of battles. Of course, you have the AI battles, you have the field battles, you have the sieges. In matchmaking battles, you have the different levels of expeditions, and then you have the Iron Man, which isn't always available, but that is one of the battle types. And then you have Deathmatch, which I haven't seen yet personally. Based on the hero board, it looks like it was open for a while. I don't know when that happened, but I must have missed it. So you have quite a lot of different things to do. Something I'm going to cover in a future video is how these different battle types, not only do they provide you with a different experience when you're playing them, but they give you different things in their results in terms of their returns and rewards. So just as an example, and again, we'll talk about this in another video in detail, the matched battles, the field battles give you good balanced unit XP and hero XP, but something like a expedition gives you very little hero XP, but it gives you a far greater amount of unit XP, and that's pretty interesting way to allow the player to customize their return on investment in terms of their time, what they need to do. If you're lower level, you might want to focus on your units, and later on you might want to focus on your hero, or vice versa. So you have that level of control when you choose your battle type. Of course, queuing can be an issue if population is low at particular times of day. I suspect the queuing issue will be addressed somewhat through the increase in population once this goes full free to play on June 4th. We'll see how that plays out. The other question that remains to be asked is what they're going to do in terms of the bracketing. We do have a case now of where people below a certain level and people above a certain level are somewhat segregated. That's both a good and bad thing. There are ways of addressing that. If you say, for example, you're below level 30 and you have trouble finding matches, there are things you can do. I will talk about that in another video as well. But generally speaking, the battles are there. They're fun. They don't seem too clunky. The combat system, I'm telling you, man, I played a lot of Mount & Blade. I played a lot of other games that have some similar combat mechanics, and they feel really good. When you can act with precision in a game like this, whether it be with ranged or melee attacks, it's a good sign. I'm not sure exactly what the code is doing, and there may be some issues with certain weapon types, but for myself personally, I really enjoy it, and I find it very satisfying. If I'm on my horse and I spirit charge through a column of enemy archers, I feel it. It feels visceral, and it makes a good impact. Speaking of impact, that gotta hurt. Of course, these matches, talking about how they feel, you have little moments in different parts of the battlefield where you have smaller clusters of players, working a particular angle of attack. In this case, me and guildmate here, TC, are working on this corner, trying to drop pressure off of the capture point at point A. We pull some unit attention, so we pull back to regroup a little bit here. I'm not sure entirely why these guys didn't push their advantage. They had us on the back foot, but perhaps they were facing pressure from the other side and they decided to fall back, or they just didn't like their odds. When you have a large battlefield like this with 15 players on each side, you don't really always have a good sense of what's happening, so it's hard to second guess what people do. In this case, there was pressure from the other side, so we're going to sandwich them here as if we planned it, which of course we didn't, but hey, I'll take it. We're going to clean up, and securing this point will unlock the next point in the progression, and we can push on deeper into the capture here. Again, the way these battles play out is really enjoyable. You have all kinds of opportunity for pushing an advantage or recovering if you've been pushed on. I've seen fights that look like you were losing like 100%, and somehow you pull it out with an incredible capture defense in the last 3 to 5 minutes. Or I've seen the reverse. I've seen a brilliant rush and just really aggressive play, and you'll take the final cap point in no time. It's really a broad range of experience you can have, and it's kind of fun. I gotta say, these kinds of games, or any game really, eventually you get bored. Eventually something new and shiny comes out and you want to play it, and that can happen sooner in some cases for some games, and it can happen later for others. My sense is that this game will have a lot of longevity purely because the core gameplay is so fun and so dynamic and chaotic. That's one of the reasons why the outcome is unsure very often, is because the combination of so many individual players and so many units and of different types, complementary types and contrasting types in some cases, it gives you different experiences pretty much every single time. And you add into that, the use of deployable siege artillery and the trebuchet volleys and all these things, the different map types and weather conditions, which do affect unit performance. I mean, there's a lot going on here that's not obvious, but as you play and you rack up, many games, you begin to realize that the play experience is very rich, which is good. And then, of course, if you move beyond the match battles and get into the open world content, which is both PvE, territorial conquest, and PvE, there's a lot to do. The harvesting and crafting isn't quite as developed as some of us would like to see. There's room for improvement there, especially with the crafting. I don't know if that's going to happen. Certainly, it would be easy to grant, for example, some rare weapon materials specific properties, so you can customize your weapon creation to have more, damage of a particular type, piercing or slashing, blunt, or whatever the case may be. We may see that in the future. We are, of course, capped right now in terms of weapon level that we can create. Eventually that'll open up, and it'll be tied to both the harvesting, FIFA ownership gameplay. So, there's content there to be explored, but there's a lot to do, even as things stand right now. The territorial or sieges, or the battles that happen in the open world, those are on a schedule basis. They only happen twice a week, currently on Tuesday and Saturday. So that's again another case of both good and bad, where you don't have this pressure of having to face a siege every single day, or get up for a 2 a.m. 3 a.m. siege. That can be horrible on a player base, and certainly on a guild over time. So having it scheduled in that sense is good. It's bad though, of course, because if you happen to not be able to get on those times, you could go weeks, if not months, without being able to experience that particular content. So, a mixed bag. As with all things, usually if you have pluses and minuses, or if some people are dissatisfied and some people are satisfied, it's usually a sign that you're doing things right. We may see in future some expansion of the sieging. We don't really know what they have planned. They did discuss in a news article not too long ago that territory wars will be changing in many respects, so much so that they will be wiping the fief ownership at that point. So, things could change drastically. We don't have details yet. I imagine that will be coming before they do it. But even aside from that, there's other things you could do open world in terms of combat. You can simply, take a crew out and engage people in open field battles, pursuit battles, etc. And that's fun as well. The PvE content, I've said this in the past, it's surprising at how good it is. The rebel camps are really challenging. Even the easy one is difficult, so much so that I joked that the evaluation, the name they put on them, might mean it's easy from their perspective, not from the player's perspective. I haven't even tried a hard one yet. I've heard it's difficult. So a challenge in that respect is really good. Again, I did discuss this in another video, but having to try the PvE battle, and fail miserably, and think about what the AI is doing, what you're doing, your unit composition, your tactics, think about it and adjust and take another crack at it, and see the different results. That's a really enjoyable experience in its own. Losing a fight, aside from the material costs, unit repair and whatnot, is not bad if it's fun. And the PvE, the base combat with the unit gameplay and so on is very, very fun. And having to coordinate the efforts of your warlords and their units is fun as well. You're going to see a bit of that later in this video, where someone on my team and I, we coordinate. Well, actually, we don't coordinate through planned action. We haven't discussed it, but we were just both situationally aware enough to realize this player's doing this, I should do this, and naturally support each other. It's one of the great things about this game, in fact, where you have the units of different types, is that even, say, for example, if you have a lower level account, your warlord is lower level compared to the other guys, and even in that context your units will be lower level as well comparatively, but just the base unit type and using a particular type in a particular situation means you can contribute significantly to a battle, and as a low-level player perhaps make the difference. So here, for example, I've gone on to the side in a very lightly defended area of the map to capture a supply point, which helps the team. So you could do this as a single low-level player, and you're making an impact on the battle. You won't always face no opposition, but in this particular case that was an option. So here I have my archers. I'm moving my archers forward. The other warlord who just came up to the supply point as I captured it noticed what unit I have, I assume, and you're going to see here, is going to pull out shields. The spearmen, who have the shield wall ability, and these two units are complementary. You set up your shields, and then you set your archers up behind them, and they can do more damage than they would do, otherwise sitting out in the open. Again, I don't know that this other player was coordinating in his unit selection, but you'll see here that he definitely coordinated in his unit placement, And that's something you can do, with a small group of players if you have a couple friends, even if you're not in a house, or you do it, of course, as a member of a house with your group. Formulating group compositions to be complementary. So shout out here to Cygor of House Chaos for being a smart, aware player and coordinating with me here. We're going to set up in this little alleyway. Now this is not putting pressure directly on the point. What we're doing here is we're drawing pressure off of the point by pulling warlords a bit away here to the side. A little effort like ours here, if unopposed, can cause some damage. This turned out not necessarily to be the case, as they reacted to us with some force and aggression and were able to deal with us. But as you can see, we do pull those people off of the main push, and that has value. And that's something you can do, again, just with units, lower level units, even if you don't have a level 60 warlord and good high quality, high level gear, you can still contribute. I'll be talking more about how lower level players can address their particular situation in a further video, but for now you'll see how this plays out. So our offensive gets dealt with. You can see there's 3 warlords. I believe there's a 4th somewhere. I'm not sure where they went. That's 2 of us drawing 3 or 4 off of the capture point, which, when it comes to how the capture point mechanics work, that's important. They're also heavily injured, wounded. They're going to get killed as a result of that, even if we didn't directly kill them. So these games are fun. I'm having a great time playing them. Can't get enough. I look forward to tomorrow, which is June 4th, as I'm posting this, when free-to-play period will start. I hope to see a bunch of you in that haven't played yet, and I hope you enjoy the game. And thanks for watching.